Hello everybody, my name's James, welcome to the Planet FPL Gameweek 35 Deadline stream, and it's live. We're about 55 minutes away from the Gameweek 35 Deadline, and you will see wildcard active for myself. Well, you don't know that it's wildcards active, but I'm telling you that it is, and that's the team that I'm going with on screen, with a plan to bench boost. Oh, hello, repeat. With a plan to bench boost in Gameweek 36 and free hit. Shut up, James. In free hit 35. Free hit 38 is the way I'm now going to attack as many premium and offensive assets as I can in Gameweek 38 and get rid of my Everton and Villa assets. That's the plan that I'm now going with. Injuries over the next 2 weeks could obviously scupper that, but that's the idea that I'm going with. So I line up this week with Foster in goal, a back five of Trent Alexander-Arnold, Andy Robertson, a Merrick Laporte, João Cancelo, Matty Cash, a midfield four of captain Mo Salah. Yes, reluctantly, he's back in, not out of fear. It's just the best setup for my team. I couldn't make it work to have Son and De Bruyne and keep Trent, for example. So something had to give somewhere. Salah's in with Foden, Coutinho, Saka, up front Ollie Watkins on the bench for me this week, Kasper Schmeichel, Eddie Nketiah, Richarlison and Gordon of Everton, Anthony Gordon, why have I forgot his first name, and that's set up. The idea, ideally, no injuries, is to roll that next week, bench boost it, make 2 free transfers, 37, free hit 38. You will see my top captaincy picks in order of preference below my teams to the bottom right hand corner of the screen. Please delete your captaincy questions, it's there right in front of you. If you got Mo, the EO is still going to be big, I'd go with him, but there are several good alternatives this week. I think anybody on that list is a decent captaincy option this week. To the left of me, you'll see the schedule for the week, the countdown to the deadline, and my correct score predictions for each of the 10 games. No doubles this week. Each of the 10 games in game week 35. Right at the bottom of the screen, you'll see on the grey ticker remaining fixtures for all 20 Premier League sides. Those in blue indicate double game weeks. And the benching dilemma screen is there for you, where there are 2 options together. The player with the tick is the preferred option. I will take you through in the first instance. Page 1, Rudiger over Matip over Dennis over Nketiah over Tony. Moving on to page 2, Tony over Mateta over Breuer over Richarlison over Harvey Barnes. On to page 3, Harvey Barnes over Ramsey over Pukki over Weghorst over Rafinha. Page 4, Rafinha over, yes, I know Ben Davis is currently showing in the Liverpool shirt. It's because there's another annoying fucking Ben Davis. If Captain gets out of bed, he'll update it, but I think he's quite busy this morning. So please ignore that. That's obviously the Tottenham Ben Davis. Over Ben White, over Connor Cody, over James Maddison. And finally, the keeper dilemmas. Pope over Foster, over Ramsdale, over Sarr, over Schmeichel. That's your graphics. If your answer is on screen, please do the courtesy of deleting your question, and please read the pinned message that I've posted in the chat, which says if you've got Chelsea assets this week, start them. That's generally the advice I'm going to go with here. Start your Chelsea assets if you've got them, unless you are selling them. If you want to sell them, sell them. But if you've got them, I've seen teams benching like Havertz and stuff like that. Like if you really think it's not going to start, sell him. There's other great assets you can go and get at cheaper prices. So that's the advice on Chelsea. I had loads of Chelsea questions yesterday. I can't bother with them. Right, let's get into the questions, guys. Smash a like, hit the subscribe button. This is going to be fast-paced. Questions will be answered in the order they are submitted. Praise says, hello, James. On wildcard, and I've been stuck on this for a while. Maddison or Saka? Saka, that's what I've gone with. Dewsbury Hall or Gordon? Gordon, that's what I've gone with. Also, is it insane of me to go for Tavares and press for cash? Literally pressed for Matty Cash. He's okay. There is, as Adam Pritchard spoke about on Clash of Correspondence on Thursday, a risk of obviously Cedric perhaps being played at left back once Tomiyasu's back in the team. But I think it's decent. It's okay. There's a potential upside with him. I'd say, like, look, of the games that they've got left, the most likely games he's going to miss is Tottenham. So you'd still probably have the single at home to Leeds in 36. And look, if you're not bench boosting, he's a very, very good pick, actually. On my team, by the way, like, I wouldn't say it's 100% locked, because obviously if we get some leaked Liverpool news, and I'm keeping an eye on a few outlets between now and deadline, if suddenly, for example, Salah's not in the team, I will I've got a plan to fuck up the wild card completely. But as long as the Liverpool team is what I like, that is what I'm going with. Lexa Steeleman says, hey, Son Richarlison versus KDB Pookie. Son Richarlison for me. Daniel Thomas says, hi James, thoughts on James to cash VVD from -4. Not convinced James will start. Have no chips and Ramsey first sub as it stands. Have a good bank holiday weekend. I think Jacob Ramsey's a very good first sub for you this week. So is it worth the -4? Maybe not. If you roll it for a week, are you still making that transfer for free next week? Is there something else you've got planned? If you've got something else you've got planned next week anyway, fine, make the -4. But in all honesty, if Reece James is starting, do you expect any of them other two to outscore him? James didn't play against West Ham. Chelsea have no fixture in midweek, and the Chelsea team might be stronger than what people think. I'd probably keep Reece James at the minute and reassess. Muetos says, hi James, worried about Chelsea rotation for running. So Mount, Breuer to Coutinho and Dennis -4. Gives me 15 for bench boost 36 and plan on using the free transfer next week. James to Laporte. You've got a plan, mate, and it seems decent. Again, with these Chelsea assets, I think that's it. Like, if you're going to sell them, sell them. And I think Coutinho is the right person to move to. That would be first choice. So, yeah, I'm okay with it. Dennis and Breuer, Dennis definitely better than Breuer over the next two. Vivek Gore says, which goalkeeper do you prefer, Mendy and Schmeichel or Ramsdale and Schmeichel? Ramsdale and Schmeichel. I wouldn't even be certain if you're aiming that for a bench boost, which I'm guessing if you're spending that much money in your keepers, I wouldn't even be certain that Mendy starts twice in the double personally. So Ramsdale and Schmeichel, and he gives you another million or so for your team. Lin Tian Bao says going 3 times Liverpool defence with KDB and Foden. Good luck, James. I don't mind that at all. Treble Liverpool defence was very much under consideration for me. Andrew Gronin says, hi James, looking ahead to bench boost 36. Where do I get the biggest bang for my buck with next week's free transfer? Sarr to Schmeichel or João Pedro to Nketiah. Could do both for a -4, but not sure that gets paid back. Well, I think the Watford team today is probably quite important for you. Not that it's going to help if they lose today and Roy Hodgson gets sacked, and I'm fairly certain he will do if they lose today, actually. Sarr to Schmeichel, really, probably. But keep that for now. Arguably, I think Brighton will win today, actually, but arguably Sarr's got the better fixture this week. Warnock says, would you do Havertz to Foden this week or roll instead? I mean, I'd be rolling, personally. Quite simply, it comes down to this. Do you think Kai Havertz starts? And also, are we guaranteed that Phil Foden starts? No, like, I've gone Phil Foden. There's no guarantee, is there? It's in between Champions League semi-finals. Pep could do anything with that team today. So I'd probably roll, I think, and give yourself a little bit more information. You may decide next week you want to go something cheaper and shove the money somewhere else in your squad. I think rolling is more powerful. Baz Bestos says, Ashley Young okay over Matty Cash if you need the 0.5? Yes, it probably is. But I did look at Ashley Young's returns yesterday and stuff. I mean, there's nothing there to be excited about. Cash has got the explosiveness, but if you're short of the money, yes, it's probably reasonable. He is injury prone. He is old. There's belief, and I forget the young lad's name, that there's a young left back that's potentially going to be called up to the Villa squad as cover, but he's not anticipated to obviously take Young's place. I mean, if Young's fit, he plays. QG123, hey James, do you think Martinelli could get back in for Smith Rowe before the end of the season? Could he? Yes. Do I think he will? Not while Nketiah continues to play. I think Smith Rowe's covering obviously Lacazette was dropping deep for them. I think Smith Rowe and Odegaard are both filling that space at the moment. So I think there's a correlation with Smith Rowe starts to Nketiah. So at the moment, I think Smith Rowe's got favouritism. Bertica says, good morning, James. Outstanding stuff as always, my friend. One dilemma for me. Who to bench from Reece James, Kulusevski or Nketiah? Not Reece James. There's just a non-bench ever, is it? If he's a sub, he's a sub. Slight favouritism with Kulusevski for this particular week. Vivek Gore says, would you buy either Barnes or Maddison on wildcard for bench boost in 36? No, I haven't. Sagnick says, our medical team took Skip's minor knock to a season-ending injury just when he was starting to become an important cog in the midfield. TJ Powell says, hey James, hope you're well. Just wanted to say good luck and have a good weekend. And to you too, my friend. Edwin Guan says, bench one and Nketiah, James, Havertz and Nketiah. You ain't going to catch me saying bench the Chelsea players. The only advice I can give you on the Chelsea players, if you own them and you're thinking of benching them, is that you truly believe they're not going to start. And fine, if you truly, not me, you truly believe they're not going to start, fine. Bench them. The Chelsea team is an absolute lottery this weekend. I think it might be stronger than what people expect. James98 says, hi mate, hope all is well, currently on wildcard. Any thoughts on going Alisson over TAA or Robertson as third Liverpool asset due to potential rotation in 36? Do you think Robbo starts both games? I think he'd start both. It's just too big for Liverpool. It's too big. I think they'll play. I did look at Alisson, just not in terms of being a better option than those two. He's not. I do think Alisson's a better option than Ederson, for example. And I did look at it in terms of spreading the money and what could potentially happen, but I decided I wanted Robertson and Trent too much personally. So at the end of the day, it's Robertson or Trent. It's the same with Reece James, the same with Cancelo. They could play once and still explode. Adash says, hello mate, KDB with Son and Salah. KDB with Son and Salah. White, Gordon versus... There's too much going on here, mate, Adash. KDB, White and Gordon versus Foden, Laporte and Coutinho till the end of the season. Got one free hit left, thanks. Option B. The bit in the middle is not necessary. Eshen says, Nketiah or Pookie for Werner. Nketiah's the preference for me. Lexus says, thoughts on Son and Matip, then flip to Robbo and Foden next week. -4 for more guaranteed starts. How does bringing Foden in for Son get you more guaranteed starts? Just think about that. Shrinkette says, hi James, I have Salah, Kane, Son and TA, Robbo, James as premiums. Nice. Do you think it's worth to remove Kane or Son this week to get Cancelo and spread funds for bench boost 36, getting Watkins, Laporte, no free hit left? Nah, you better off rolling, mate. Tom Dart says, would you do Mount to Foden this week for a hit, or would you wait until next week? Wait. Eshan says, play White or Wood? White. Will Jones says, morning Jimbo, hope all is good with you and the fam. Thoughts on this -4? Fernandez and Barnes to Mane and Coutinho. Good luck this game week and keep up the quality content. Suj and yourself are killing it. Much appreciated. Thank you. I'd sell Bruno Fernandes for -12 if I had to right now, to be honest. I think Harvey Barnes does start for Leicester tomorrow. It's worth saying. And I have a little bit of doubt personally on Mane's involvement today. And I think there has to be a little bit of doubt if he does start today, a little bit of doubt about him for 36 in terms of starting twice. But on the face of it, yes, I'm fine with those transfers, Will. Bart Spillers says, got priced out last night for share to cash. Go Mings instead, or what better option? 5.2 max. To be honest, Villa are a threatening team from set pieces. They'll throw in the long throws and stuff as well. So I don't mind you going with Mings. Suj in says, what's a good strategy for someone with wildcard, free hit and bench boost left? Wildcard now, bench boost 36, free hit 38, sir. Sagnick says, I still think you should wildcard now, Suj. I'm not joking. I see ya. Oh, James is following me with 38. No, you said you'd wildcard in 38, which I've talked you out of to at least say that wildcard 37, free hit 38. No, I hate it. I'm not following you. It's for the sake I've got too many Villa and Everton assets going into 38, and I can thin out the bench and spend more money on my starting 11 for the final day. That's what I want to do. I still think you should wildcard, pal. Sagnick says, an FPL question here, Jimbo. There's loads of them, ironically enough. Would you go for Foden or Coutinho as a Havertz replacement if you are free hitting in 37? Probably Foden. TJ Powell says, one final spot in my wildcard. Gordon or Smith Rowe, bench boost 36, possible free hit 38. It's Gordon, mate, for me. Do I think he outscores Smith Rowe? No, particularly. I think Smith Rowe's a little bit more at risk. And you may find if something happens, TJ, that a little bit more money available. Like I've left some money in the bank for a contingency to use it and be able to move better. So, for example, with Gordon, you can go up to Smith Rowe or something. If you lose Smith Rowe, where are you going? You come down to Gordon anyway? Then what are you doing with the money? Consider those options. Amber Redmond says, morning, if you have to fill out a form and it asks what your job title is, what do you put? Good question. Content creator. Can't be having this influencer nonsense. Daniel Williams says, no free hit. You are an influencer, Jack. No, Daniel Williamson says no free hit left and we'll have 3 Villa. Everton plan to buy Palace 37 or roll to get 2 in 38. Yes, Daniel, that's a while away, mate, but you plan to buy Palace 37 loosely. Chris Duckworth says, morning James, found signal in hospital, transfers made. Thanks for your advice, you're very welcome, buddy. I'm sending you best wishes, mate. Take care. Vivek Gore says, do you think Justin is worth a punt for bench boost 36? Is it too risky? Mate, it's impossible to guess the Leicester team tomorrow, never mind if someone's going to play twice in 36. The one thing to say about the Leicester assets is, look, they've got an amazing double, Everton at home and Norwich at home, so the majority of players are probably going to play once. And you've got them for a great fixture. So Justin can hit 6 to 9 points or so at Everton at home, can't he, or Norwich at home. So there is at least that. It's not like there's one really good fixture and one bad fixture. But, I mean, the safest policy I've decided on is just fuck Leicester right now. Unless something becomes really clear next week. Maddison's the one who I wouldn't rule out of my thinking for next week as a possibility. Sebo Slices, morning James, thanks for the content and best of luck this game week. Hit the like, people. Yep, thanks guys. Smash a like if you're in. There's about 400 of you so watching. Doesn't cost anything to press that thumb, guys. It'd be appreciated. Spreads the Planet FPL message. Emily Sissoni says, hi James, on wildcard would you go Konsa, Son and Pookie and Ketcher, or Pookie or Nketiah, or Cash, Foden and Richarlison? That's fairly obvious when you look at my team. I think Emily, best of luck. Sandnick is laughing at Sujan Shah, and he deserves to be laughed at quite a lot. Gareth James says, morning James, what are your thoughts on Havertz to Grealish for free? It's that or Rodriguez to Nketiah. Definitely Rodriguez to Nketiah, mate. I mean, Grealish might not even start again for the rest of the season. Who knows? Grealish is going to explode next year, by the way. You can quote me on that. Craig Gardner says, not the ex-Birmingham player, or ex-Villa player even, on wildcard, final decision, bench boost next week, TAA and Dennis versus James and Richarlison. TAA, Dennis. Z says, hi James, plan for this game week was always Sterling to Son and captain. Best to follow through, yes. If that's your plan, yes. But I have to say, as a number of my patrons come back and said they're going with Sterling as their big differential captain this week. Son will still offer you a good differential captain as well, mate. I think Sterling starts. But I could have that completely wrong. You know that Son does start. Your call, mate. Not easy when you jump in between these premiums like this. But if it was your plan, arguably stick to it, mate. Luke H says, morning James, no major questions. Senior team, and we have 13 and 15, both on wildcard. Start James and Ketcher, all the best. You already know the answer, Luke. Start with Reece James, mate. Unless you truly believe he doesn't start. Pavanar says, Kane or Son for game week 35, 37, 38. Preference is Son. And also, if you decide you hate it for whatever reason, you can move Son to similar players. Kane is going to be a -4. So, Sonny, mate. Pete Haley says, hi, James. I already have Cancelo. Do you think doubling with Laporte and a 4.8 defender is worth it, or stick with Cash and Alonso? This is for a bench boost 36. Yeah, stick for now, I think, and assess your options next week. Zaris says, will Marty have a chance to go start both games in 36? Come to tutor us for next year in summer Greece. Listen, if you want to pay for the flyer, I'm there, mate. Right, it's not a problem. I can't stay long now. I've got a little one. A Marty starting twice. It might not start at all. Sorry, Zaris. Dylan Ferner Rose says, hey, James, thinking of bringing in Ketcher for Tony from -4, or could bin the -4. Wait till this double game week next week and bring him in for Weghorst. What do you reckon? I think wait. Like, Tony could score at Old Trafford on Monday night. Like, don't fear that fixture. Sam mate Max says, hi James, just want to say thank you for the amazing content. Love your analysis. Thank you, Sam. Good luck. FPL Claire E says, I bet you would have already answered this, but should I do Havertz to Foden or roll and have 2 frees next week to attack double? Claire, love you, mate. You know the answer. Birth Media says, Gundogan as a punt. Thoughts? No. It's absolutely that, isn't it? Don't even think he starts. Could do. Don't think he does. Craig Gardner says, final sub and wildcard for planned bench boost game week 36, 4.4 million budget. Tavares risky. Ailing fixtures aren't great, or another Tavares of the toe. I mean, yeah, it's risky. We expect him from Ailing. Padraig Donnelly says, hi James, over the next 2 game weeks, which trio scores more points? Cash, Salah, Saka, or Laporte, Son and Jota? Thanks. The Salah route, mate. Josh says, hi James, who should I be targeting over the next 2 game weeks if I'm free hitting 37? Do I go Coutinho? Yeah, it's still fine. It's Norwich at home with a double, right? It's absolutely fine. Yeah, it'd still be near the top of the list. Garav says, hello, James. Hello, Garav. Razik says, hi, James. I'm currently at 250k and want to do some desperate moves. I'm thinking about Salah to Son for a hit, but not sure if it's too desperate. Would like to get close to 150k. How many differentials you got in the rest of your team? Because the one thing that's kind of convinced me with Salah is, and I realise there's a lot of people moving to the players that I've got this week, but they're not able to get to all of them. So I've got enough differentials, I think, in the rest of my team, actually. So it kind of falls down to that. If you're desperate to make the gain, fine, do it. But you're really expecting Son to outscore Salah by 5 or more. Girardin88 says, Havertz to Saka or Coutinho. Free hit 37. I think free hit 37. Slight preference for Saka. Vivek Gore says, who would prefer between... But then you're just following everybody else, the majority you've got, right? So, do you want it to be differential at all? Therein lies your answer. Vivek Gore says, who would prefer between Watkins and Weghorst for this game week only? Or rather, who scores more between these two? Wow. I mean, they both probably get 2 points, mate, but Watkins by a mile. Bobby96 says, hi, James, mate. I know it's grim, but start 2 out of Dallo, Ramsey, Pookie, Breuer. Breuer for me and Ramsey. I think just. Svensson stances is buying Ashley Young a sensible option. I don't know if it's sensible, but it's okay. Ben Eddington says, morning James, really thinking of doing Kane and Kulusevski to Watkins and De Bruyne next week. Is it too risky to go with no Spurs? I may try and get Kane back game week 38. Look at my team, mate. Maybe it's too risky for me. But then I also hope Son and Kane go mental tomorrow. And I hope they go mental in the double. And I hope they go mental in 37. I can live with that. Might be more difficult for you to live with. Ideally, look, I would have wanted particularly Son in. It's just not worked the system for me. But there's no. It's the end of the season. 4 weeks to go. It's not essential. Salah's not essential. No one's essential. It's 4 weeks to go. Mane could outscore Salah over the next 4, right? It's a small period. There's more variance that can happen here. So think differently if you want to. Kenneth Faz says, do you think KDB, Laporte and Richarlison or Kane, Foden and Matip will get more points till the end? So we've got KDB, Laporte and Richarlison or Kane, Foden, Matip. I think the KDB option. Razik says, I think Son will bang versus Arsenal and possibly return versus Paul too. I don't know about banging, but yes, he can return in both games. Son against Trent at Anfield, honestly, he can do damage. Really can. But I've decided to go against Patrick Lawson. Not because I didn't want him. It just doesn't work for me. Patrick Lawson says, morning James, is Havertz to Saka worth -4 this week? Not for me. Only if you don't think Havertz doesn't start, mate. Rob Pick, for someone on free hit 37, Saka or Coutinho? Slight preference Saka under that circumstance, mate. Damien Rizal, remember, look at game week 38 as well. Saka at home to Everton, Coutinho at Man City. I think it's Saka, mate. Damien Rizalski says, can Millwall FC or Luton Town clinch promotion through playoffs? Your thoughts? With Sheffield United's win last night means it's going to be very difficult for Millwall to get in there. Luton have got a chance. They've got a chance. It'd be amazing. Amazing story if they do it. Considering they were National League, 10, 12 years ago or so? Maybe even less. Rob Pick says, good luck, mate. Have a great weekend. You too, mate. Hope you're still married. Ben Eddington says, should I go from Rudiger to Alonso this week for the rest of the season? Okay, we're chasing points here, aren't we? No. FPL telling Josh, Rudiger's one of the more likely players, I think, to play twice in 36. FPL telling Josh says, morning James, no questions this morning, wish you all the best for the game week, mate. Thanks for the smashing content as always. Thank you, Josh, good luck. Matthew McHale says, morning James, top stuff, mate. On wildcard, not got the best squad value. Pookie and Robertson or Richarlison and Matip. Pookie Robertson, mate. Rasmus Anderson says, I have somehow ended up with the exact same wildcard as you. Should I be concerned or relieved? Rasmus, you should be extremely concerned. Dragan says, Wood and Martinelli to Coutinho on 4.5 or Gordon and Watkins. No chips left. Would bench Gordon this week and play 36-37. Cheers. I like the Gordon option, mate. Chris Jago says, hi James, asked this on Slack. For game week 38 being a goal fest usually, what would you advise on those? A heavy 5 at the back. That you go with it, right? You go with it. I mean, look, if you've got a makeup of like Liverpool and Man City, say like I have, you've got 4 between them. I mean, do you need to free hit them out? No, not necessarily. I'll make the decision when I get there, and I think you should do the same. Once you get there, you might be, it's something I can punt there or something. Someone might get injured between now and then. But the reality is, you look at Liverpool and Man City's fixtures, game week 38, and I look at them both and think that's probably 2-0 to both. So the points will be there. Alejandro Perez says, hey James, thoughts on starting Roberts over James? Tired of these damn cameos and 2 points. No, can't particularly be agreeing with that, to be honest. As covered several times, unless you truly believe that your Chelsea asset won't start, I think you played them. Just going to have a look, just keeping an eye on a few things, see if we've potentially got any Liverpool news. No, nothing at the moment. I'm not particularly expecting anything, but just keeping an eye open, and obviously particularly for myself, if it's news I don't like, I'm potentially changing my team, so I will keep checking. Mark Lynch says, thanks James, how many doublers would you recommend in 37? I know it depends on your team, but just looking for a rough figure. Wildcard this week, bench boost next. FF, I presume it's either 37 or 38. Thanks for your advice. Look, at the moment I'm going to have 6 for 37. So I've got 3 Villa, 2 Everton and Schmeichel. And probable intention would be to add Zaha and possibly even someone like Seamus Coleman. And possibly go with 8, which is going to mean I'm going to leave someone massive on the bench, like a Robertson or a Cancelo or something, possibly could be. But look, Liverpool, City, Spurs, good fixtures particularly. So, I mean, if you've got 9 from those assets, could you go with those 9 and just have 2 doublers? Yeah, of course you could. So, no, if you're asking for the set amount, there's no right answer. If I was free hitting in 37, honestly, I'd go 11. I'd go for it. I'd go for the lot, personally. I'd go for the lot. I'd go treble Villa, treble Everton. I'd go treble Palace. I'd have Schmeichel. And I'd look to see if there was something else I could maybe work in to perhaps punt. Or I'd keep someone like Salah, for example. But I'd be very close to 11, I think. So there isn't an ideal. There's a what's best for you. Shit answer, I'm sorry, truth. Bossman525 says, best player to use triple captain on the remaining game weeks, Mo Salah, game week 36. And that's what's really swung it for me. He's truly believing that Mo Salah's the best captaincy in 36 in terms of why he stayed in. Justin Boller says, what do you think about Young as a cheap alternative to cash? Not ideal, but if it saves the money because you can't afford to go there, fine. But I wouldn't cut it for the sake of it. I'd go with cash, which is what I've done. Shriniket says, if you were to go with only one of Robertson or TA till the end of the season, which one would you go with? If money's no object, still Trent. Fuckers Joe. He's got 2 attacking returns only since AFCON. Only. It's Joe. I don't know, yeah, Robertson's been outperforming for a little while. It's still Trent for me. Liam Preston says, hi James, would you start Martinelli or Weghorst? Weghorst by default, because I think he starts. Joe Singh says, hi James, would you do Kane and Martinelli to Watkins and Coutinho? Cheers, mate. Probably would, yeah. Probably would. Certainly if it's 2 free transfers. Ben Eddington says, Cash or Alonso for the rest of the season? Cash. James says, bench 1 of Kulusevski, Mount, Havertz or Zaha? Tough. I think Kulusevski, I think. Arguably. I keep saying it. Honestly, unless you truly believe those Chelsea players don't start, I would start them. 0405 Iceman. Hi James, worth a -4 to do Odegaard to Saka. No, I'd leave that. Odegaard was under consideration for me in terms of potentially facilitating 1 or 2 things. But I decided that Saka was more important. Would I -4 it right now, this week? No, probably not. Mayank says, should I keep Sterling? Well, as I don't know what you want to buy, mate, I'm going to have to say yes. Toby Evanson says, hi James, thanks for the great pods this week. Bowen and Martinelli out for Foden or Coutinho, and Gordon or Ramsey for free this week. Hit the likes all. It depends what you're doing further ahead, but in terms of making transfers, yes. Again, I think if you're free hitting 37, preference would be with Foden over Coutinho. If you're not, then arguably Coutinho. Slight preference for Gordon over Ramsey for me. Mayank says, who do I start, Werner or Nketiah? You already know the answer, mate. And Mayank captaincy's on the screen, bottom right hand corner, mate. JP, Pookie or Dennis with bench boost 36 in mind. Can you do the MJ? Hee hee. You want me to speak about the Burnley manager? Hee hee. Pookie. Dennis was never a real consideration for me. That said, you do look at the next 2 weeks, but Burnley at home and then double with Palace and Everton looks great. And it looks better than Pookie's. Absolutely looks better than Pookie's. I just wouldn't want any more of Emmanuel Dennis personally. I think if you're looking at it just over the next 2 weeks, it's close call. Also, would not want to look at Dennis away to Chelsea final day. I'd rather look at Pookie against Tottenham than Dennis against Chelsea, if that helps in any way. Billy Anderson says, yes, James, Legend, Saka or Salah captain. Legend says, bottom right-hand corner of the screen, mate. Ben Eddington says, hi, James, Gameweek 38. I know a bit far in advance. Would you take a -4 to get Kane and Tony in? But it also involves taking KDB out for Odegaard. Ben, it's fucking miles away, pal. Don't worry your brain about that now. There's so many things that can happen between now and then. Injury, suspension, loss of form, change of team. Don't worry about that, mate. Last game week, you don't need to worry about your brain because it's the end game. It's the end game. There's no decision for afterwards. So you don't need to think about it. You just need to make a decision when you get there, mate. Honestly, don't worry about it. On the face of it, probably no. Dan Stairs says, morning legend, hope you're well. Where would Elanga feature on the benching dilemmas for you this week in relation to Pookie and Dennis? Cheers. Good question. Good question. I mean, I see no reason why he won't start with Sancho obviously out again. So a starter. The other two are as well. That's a good one. Arguably above them, I think. Arguably above them. That's my excuse for him not being on the benching dilemma, is that I'd start him. There you go. Downstairs says, morning legend, hope you're well. That's what we've just done. Ayush says, hey James, Kulusevski over Saka. Had a feeling Spurs beating Arsenal to take the full spot. And I wish I had your feeling, mate. No, Saka is the right call between the two. Lewis Coles, hi James. Werner to Watkins, a good move. Look, if you don't want Werner, if he's frustrated you want to move it on, yes, it's absolutely reasonable. The chances are you want to make that sort of move next week, so that's an easier one to move on. I have no problem with people selling their Chelsea players, by the way. It's just if you're keeping it, I'd start it. Tommy Brookman says, best Breuer replacement for a bench boost next week can stretch to 6.5. And Ketcher. Stretch that money somewhere else. Alan Hemmings-Lee says, thanks, thinking to transfer in Jesus and a 4.5 in bench fodder in for Iheanacho and Breuer. Do you think Jesus will play? In a word, no. It's gone. Got 4 last week. Moments passed. Could he start? Of course he could. Forget Jesus, honestly. If you want to get into Man City offensive players, get into Foden or KDB. Or arguably Mahrez, perhaps. Tarun Morali says, hey James, free hitting in 36. Don't want to burn a transfer. Would you sell Havertz or Mount for Coutinho? If yes, would you captain Coutinho over Salah or Son? Cheers. I'd captain Coutinho over Son, not over Salah. Would I make the transfer? Yes, because you're free hitting 36. So you want to look at Coutinho 37 as well. So yes, I would. Arguably at this stage, I'd rather sell Havertz. Mount is the more consistent, isn't he? And a little bit more likely of getting you 2 starts where you need it. But then, if you're free hitting 36, I don't think it matters because I don't think you'll have either. So, there's every chance you'd then be moving Mount on in 37. So, it possibly becomes a 1 week call. In which case, I'm going to say because Mount shooting from distance versus Pickford, slight preference maybe for keeping Mount for the 1 week, but I mean, you toss a coin between the two of them. John Cahill says, morning James, mate, captain Coutinho this game. It's very much looking forward to watching his 2-pointer on a completely legal 3pm stream. If you're watching a 3pm game today, probably don't watch that one. Mind you, if you're streaming a 3pm today, like, fuck fantasy, right? Watch Watford against Burnley. Even though the quality be poor, it's the game that matters, isn't it? That's the game that matters. It matters for Burnley. It matters for Everton. That's the 3 o'clock game to watch. I don't mind captain Coutinho. Honestly, I promise you, I'd have gone with KDB, Son, VVD rather than Trent, Salah, Foden. I would have captain Coutinho this week. I really don't mind it. As I keep saying, it's 4 weeks to go. If you can't look at something different now, when can you? And it's just targeting Norwich, isn't it? It's targeting Norwich. It's targeting Coutinho's returns this season against weak open opposition. Remember, there's no point. Norwich ain't going to go to Villa and aim for a draw. Well, what good's that? They'll go and win, aren't they? So I think it's a great shout, Coutinho. Adam says start Nketiah, Alonso or Richarlison. I think, Adam, the theme of this stream, you probably know the answer by now, don't you? It's Alonso, unless you don't think he starts. Addy Tour says, hi James, thanks for the great content. Is it worth taking a 1 week punt on someone on wildcard with bench boost 36 and free hit 37, or just pick the team for bench boost? So, I mean, you're talking about having a 1 week punt for someone who perhaps you don't want next week, like, I don't know, Neil Maupay. No, I'd be heading towards what your plan is for next week, to be honest, at this stage. Steve G, hope you didn't slip, says, would you do Robbo to Matip if it enables Martinelli to Coutinho? Yes, if I wasn't bench boosting 36. Otherwise, no, I probably wouldn't. Like, look at Ramsey and Gordon as alternatives. JP says, is Sessegnon Conte's favourite? Why does he seem to always start ahead of Reguilon? This is interesting. So, the patrons will certainly know this, and I did cover it a little bit on Monday's podcast. Obviously, Reguilon stayed on the bench against Brentford. Well, what we've since found out is that Reguilon was injured, so he was never coming on against Brentford. So, does Sessegnon have the favouritism? Does he? I think it's a massive game. I think Sessegnon is a really good transfer in for those who aren't relying on him having the double in 36. Because then if he loses his place in the team, he's cheap enough to have a look at. We also don't know the extent of Reguilon's injury. Now, if Reguilon's out till the end of the season, you presume Sessegnon stays in at left wing back. But we even saw, look, at Brentford on Saturday, he took Sessegnon off when we needed a goal, played Davis at wing back and brought on Davinson Sanchez. I don't think he fancies Sessegnon as much as everyone thinks he does. He took Sessegnon off after like 25 minutes at home to Wolves back in February. He's not in love with Sessegnon. I don't think he rates Sessegnon or Reguilon. So for me, it's a no. Certainly, there's a real upside with someone like Ryan Sessegnon. There's also a massive risk. Massive risk. So if you need it for certainty of starts, it's a no for me. Harry says, Kai Kulusevski for KDB. I presume you're selling one. Oh, you got money in the bank, haven't you? I assume you're selling here. You only had to put it once, by the way, Harry. I got it. It was a question the first time. I mean, for me, looking towards next week, it'd probably be sell Kai, and then what can you do with the other 2 million or so? Himangshu says, hi James, on a serious note, fancy Bruno to return at home versus Brentford? Yeah, I do. Yellow card, mate. Sean says, what's your realistic hopes with Foden? I've also gone with him. Concerned though, plays 2 out of the next 3. Look, decent value, 7.8. I'm not investing too much into offensive City there. There's upside in him. Looking at his statistics going back to New Year's Day, the Watford game was the first league game that he didn't start. In the 2 cup games that he didn't start, Southampton and Atletico Madrid, he came on as sub in both of them and got attacking returns in both of them. And that's the thing, City subs can come on return as well, right? So look, am I sitting there going, oh my God, I've got Foden because I think he definitely starts the next 3? No, of course I haven't. I know what the risk is there, and he's the one I've gone. He's probably the only one I've gone with there. Him and Nketiah are probably the only 2 I've gone with who you probably really consider as risk. So, okay. It's not a punt going with Phil Foden, is it? But I know what I'm getting myself into. What's my realistic expectation is? My realistic expectation of him is that between now and the end of game week 36 at least, that he returns more points for me than, the likes of Kulusevski, Mason Mount, others who I could have got in at a cheaper price. That's my realistic expectation, more than the starts. Ryan Henderson, otherwise I'd have gone with one of the others, wouldn't I? Ryan Henderson says, which 2 to bench out of Ramsey, Rudiger and Weghorst? Play Rudiger, mate. Enhance your soul, I have Salah, Son and KDB. Who do I captain? There's a clue on the screen, mate. Edge of Frame says, hi James, what's your preferred combination? Saka and Jota or Diaz and Coutinho? Thanks James, good luck this week. Can I say Saka and Coutinho as a preferred? I think there's If I'd have had to go Jota or Diaz, I think at this stage I possibly would have gone with Diaz. Diaz and Coutinho, but I mean, 4 game weeks, starts unknown. You got Firmino potentially coming back available maybe for next week. You could toss a coin between them, couldn't you? Both potentially great assets. I wouldn't overly put anyone off. But I do think there's a lottery to the extent that I think one of them could end up doing nothing between now and the end of the season, and the other one might get you 20 to 30 points. And I think that could flip either way. Sam Whitehead says, by Dennis or Pookie, love the content, bro. Pookie's the preference for me. One Ondon says, Havertz or Mount for Coutinho. Presume this is a sale. I've covered this. Paul Duffy says, morning, Jimmy. Start White or Weghorst. I'm playing Ramsey. White. I just don't expect anything from Weghorst. Tom Borton says, hi, James. Do you think downgrading Coutinho to Ramsey is worth it to go Son to Salah on wildcard bench boost 36, free hit 38? Bench boost 36, free hit 38. No, so you'll want Coutinho for 37. So, no. So we're going Coutinho and Son or Salah and Ramsey. To be honest, the combination I'd prefer is Coutinho and Son. Sean T100, where would you place Martinelli on the bench in dilemmas? Somewhere near Maddison. Spirit Blues says, morning, Chief. Potentially the last ever Premier League game at Goodison Park tomorrow for us versus a Big Six team. Sack the board. Sean, I wish you luck. I think you might get something tomorrow. Charlie M says, sorry if you said this before, but how come you have Spurs assets lower down the captaincy picks, expecting Leicester to sit in? No. It's more unpredictable than the other games. So I think Tottenham will probably win 2-1 or 1-0 tomorrow. Ronaldo's in great form. KDB's explosive and in great form, and I do think he starts today. I've already spoke about Coutinho and Salah in depth. So, and again, look, I think even down to Saka, Sterling, Watkins, even Cancelo, if you really fancy it, all really good captaincy options this week. I think it's open. Having Kane and Son that far down the list doesn't think they're bad choices. I know that a lot of people are captaining one of those two players this week. I think it's almost impossible to predict what Leicester are going to do tomorrow. Do Leicester get battered often? No. And I feel like we've forgotten that Tottenham haven't had a shot on target in the last 2 games. So looking at it in terms of recency bias, why do I want to put Kane on? I mean, Ronaldo over Kane, keeping Kane over Ronaldo last couple of weeks has killed, hasn't it? It's also take Ronaldo. It's possibly his last ever game at Old Trafford on Monday night. If he gets sold, it's United's last home game Monday. Ronaldo will score on Monday. So that's why. But it doesn't mean I think they're bad picks. Hake News says, about 12 minutes to deadline, guys. Says, hi James. -4. Mount to Coutinho. Again, only if you think Mason Mount doesn't start. Otherwise, I'd leave it. Rushit Pandy says, hey FPL. Hey FPL, I am the whole of FPL apparently. Just out of the context question, how did you create the template background? Wanted to know for a long time. And this running text as well would be a great help. The man you need to speak to is on screen. FPL captain. He's the god. He's the god. He's the man. I don't know how he did it. He just does it. I mean, I input some of the data and stuff, but it's all down to FPL captain. At him on Twitter. He'll explain it to you because I don't have the answer. No information yet on Liverpool. Not expecting anything as far as I can see at the moment. About 12 minutes to deadline. Right. Charlie M, that's what we've done. Raymond Reddington from the blacklist. Hello, sir. Shouldn't you be in jail? Start Mateta or Ramsey? Mateta, I think. Mateta, yeah, they're on the bench in dilemmas. Gator or Ramsdale? That's a Ramsdale for me. Charles John says, should I get Ryan Sessegnon? I've covered recently, you probably heard. Thanks for the question, Charles. Joe Stannis, Sanchez or Ramsdale, mate? To start, still Ramsdale. Tim Wright says, quality content as always, bench 2. Davis and Ketcher, Dewsbury Hall. I'd start and Ketcher out of them, mate. Billy Anderson, got Martinelli, James. Would you consider moving early for bench boost 36 as lack of starts? I think, Billy, that depends on what your bench looks like this week. Have you got the cover? You probably don't want to start him because I don't think he starts as it stands. But the information is probably more important. So ideally wait if you've got the bench. Flock says, hi James, which player do you think will get the most points this game week? Mo Salah. He's got the armband and I've just wildcarded. So I've got to say Mo Salah, haven't I? I wouldn't be surprised if it's someone like Reece James or Ryan Sessegnon. Let's say Nuno Tavares. Ian Cox says, hi James, thanks as ever for your help and great content. Agonising over Havertz and Kilman's Gordon Cancelo or Foden Royal. Any thoughts? Bench boost 36, free hit 37. I think Emerson Royal stays in the team at the moment, but I wouldn't be surprised if by the time we come to game weeks 37 and 38 if Kulusevski's playing wing back. So I'd avoid. And that's part of my thinking in terms of not going Kulusevski myself. That said, I'm potentially free hitting 38, obviously. Sorry, I'm just half scanning for potential Liverpool news at the same time here, guys. About 9 minutes to deadline. Make sure you're getting your teams locked in. If you haven't submitted your question yet, I've got no chance of me getting you covered, but I'll try and power through these for you. Stuart Robinson says, hi James, how's tricks? Good, thank you. Currently 27k. Would you take a hit and do Breuer to Dennis and Ketcher, and then play him instead of Werner? Cheers. No, I wouldn't, mate. Colin Bugler says, hit the thumbs up, people. Yeah, hit the like button. Doesn't cost anything, guys. Okay, I've decided against Origi. I'm on a wild card this game week. Watkins or Richarlison. I prefer Rich better, but that Chelsea fixture worries me. I think you've answered your own question, Colin. Watkins. Jay Singh says, great concept from you. Suj during the week, have a wild card and bench boost left. Is White an option as a defender? Yes, of course he is. Plays every game. It's dull as fuck, though, isn't it? Rob MCD says, play Nacho or Che Adams. Adams, I think. That said, I do have Ian Nacho in my predicted list team for tomorrow, if that's helpful. But Adams, I think. Fixture as well. So Adams. Paul Duffy says, totally agree on the influencer label nonsense job title. Cheers, Paul. Atta says, Dennis over Pookie to save some cash on wildcard. Worth it? I'm going to say no. Tom Ramson says, hi James, not on your bench list, so would you start White or Gordon? White with the fixtures, mate. Euros says, hi James, Breuer or Mateta to Nketiah. At this stage, it's moved Breuer, mate. Predator says, hello James, what do you think of Alonso, Triple City defence, Kulusevski over Saka, Ramsey and Dennis in wildcard, trying to squeeze in Son too? I think on the wildcard you should pick a team that I like, not a team that... pick a team you like, not a team that I like. And if you haven't decided by this stage, you shouldn't be asking anyone else's advice. You should be going with a team that you like, honestly. We'll see. He says, morning James, and Ketcher or Dennis start. Not straightforward, I guess, for this particular week. With Watford playing Burnley, I'd just still rather have Ketcher there, personally. Such thinks Arsenal will batter West Ham. I don't particularly. I do think Arsenal will win, but... Harry, I've already answered your question, mate. I don't want to see it again. James Brennan says, hi James, hope you're well. For bench boost 36, would you move Pope to Schmeichel if you have no free hit left? Feel like I would want him back for the double in 37. Would you move Pope to Schmeichel if you have no free hit left? Who's your other keeper? I think it's probably relevant here, mate. Would I be desperate to get Schmeichel? No. What Burnley got next week? Villa at home. It's not awful. I think, yes, you probably would want Schmeichel. And then you can have Schmeichel 37 as well, right? You've still got a double. And Watford away this first game. So I think, yes, you probably do go Schmeichel. RBKK2009 says, hi from Thailand, James. No question, but cheers as ever for the great content. Can we get a discussion going on World Cup topics soon? Be good to know who the runners and riders are in more depth. The familiar names, mate. Sorry to be boring about it, other than Italy, obviously. Oops. Intensity bias. Sessegnon in for Livramento. I don't hate it. I don't hate it. There's logic in that, particularly if you haven't got the money in the bank. There's logic in it. Again, depends on strategy a little bit. Harry says, Kulusevski and Wood to KDB and 4.5, or Kai and Wood to KDB and Dennis. Option 2, mate. Mara Naffa says, sell Werner for Nketiah or Watkins now or wait until next week. The answer is, I think like over the 2 weeks, does Watkins outscore Werner? I'm going to say yes. So Werner to Watkins, okay, fine, thumbs up. 11-9 Ross Kenny, why is Son a differential? Not, but he'd still be a differential captain, mate. Anyone other than Salah is probably going to be a differential captain, aren't they? Joel Hickling says, who do you think will be the top 3 captaincy options this week? Salah, Kane and Son, or Ronaldo. Those 4. Dan Morris says, should I do Havertz and Breuer to Coutinho and Nketiah, or Havertz and Cher to Coutinho and Laporte? Bench boost 36, free hit 37. Prefer the second option there, Dan. Got nothing knocking about on Liverpool news at all, guys. 5 minutes to deadline. Get yourselves locked in. Ayub Samantha says, swapping Bruno for De Bruyne. Get hallelujah. Alistair Hargreaves, Havertz out for Saka or Foden, considering I won't Richarlison on bench boost. Also, I have no City attacking assets. It's not essential to have City attacking assets, mate. I nearly went without. Depends, right? What do you want? The nailed star? I don't think Saka's value is too good, but then everyone else already got him if you haven't. Do you want to go something different, or do you want to protect? Therein lies your answer, probably. British says, what's your thinking behind preferring Pookie over Wout Weghorst this week? Thanks and all the best for the week. Cheers. The thinking behind it is if Norwich do score, Pookie scores. Burnley could score and Weghorst might be nowhere near it. It's as simple as that. Think of it like this. Villa could beat Norwich 3-2 and Pookie might score twice. If Watford beat Burnley 3-2, do you think Weghorst scores twice? And that's it. That's it. Stu Holland says, morning James, superb content benching dilemma, Gordon versus Chelsea or Breuer versus Palace. I'll take my chance with Breuer, mate. Ben M says, stuck here with Pookie, Dennis and Elanga. Which 2 to play? Thank you as always. Done this, haven't we? For this week starting, I'd probably bench Pookie out of that. Excuse me. John Negri says, any news on KDB? Still one of the best players on the planet, John. There's your news. Petter S says, Kulusevski to Coutinho or Share to Cash? Do you need the share option for the future weeks? Arguably, Share to Cash is the transfer there. Ben Eddington says, no more questions from me, mate. Have a good weekend, mate, and all the best to the family. Hit the like, people. Thanks very much, Ben. Good luck to you. Michelle says, a -4 to get Coutinho instead of Martinelli. I think that's reasonable. Mario says, Kai to Foden. I have Mount also. We've been over this. Ura says, Robertson and Ramsey or Cash and Coutinho. Playing bench boost 36. I'd rather have Robertson if you look specifically for that. Matt S says, good morning, James. Would you start Kulusevski over Ramsey? Yes. William Sotano, triple City defence for the running. Cancelo, Diaz, Laporte. Good idea. Probably depends on the injury news on John Stones in a week, doesn't it? Yeah, I mean, I don't mind it. It's differential. I think it's okay. Petter S, Kulusevski to Coutinho, Share to Cash. We covered that. Michelle says, I've done that one as well. Listen, all you're doing is holding up other people, guys. Rohit says, hi James, first time poster, thanks for the awesome content. Wildcard 35 with bench boost and free hit to go, just like you. Gambling no Salah with Alisson, VVD and Matip to enable KDB and Son for the running. Worth the risk. See, gambling no Salah with Alisson, VVD and Matip to enable KDB and... That's what you've decided, mate. I'm not going to talk you out of it because there's different ways to play this game. I think it's reasonable. Billy Anderson says, hello, mate. Do I lose Martinelli, mate, as a lack of starts? Bench boost 36 planned. In my opinion, yes, I would lose it. I've got nothing on Liverpool, guys. Nothing that I can share that is of any use to anyone. So, what'll be about a minute to deadline, guys. Make sure you're getting yourselves locked in. Let's just have a final check from my own team. Oh, look, it looks exactly the same as what's on screen. That's handy, isn't it? Adam Seymour says Mings over Young just for reliability of minutes. There's no reason to think Young won't play twice, but actually, yeah, there is every case to go Mings over Young if you can't stretch to cash. Gareth Bennett says best form wildcard: Kane, Ben Davis, Dennis and Ramsey, or Watkins, Pookie, Rosen, Alonso. I don't know who that third player is, mate. Rosen, Alonso. Is it meant to be Foden? I think it's probably meant to be Foden. I'm going to say second option, even though Alonso's in there. Matthew Hall says Matip and Richarlison or Robertson and Pookie. Robbo option, mate. Sheila J. Raj says, who would you captain between Trent, James, Cancelo or Alonso? Trying to chase rank. From them, The one that's on the screen, bottom right, mate. Michael Hunt says, hi, James. Sorry if you asked this already. Currently on a wild card. Is Ben Johnson likely to stay in the starting team for Gameweek 36 versus Norwich? Not a clue, mate. Probably. They ain't got many defenders, have they? Probably. Is that what you want for 36? Johnson at Norwich. We potentially rotate West Ham team after the Europa semi-final. You're not getting any other doublers, mate. Or is he part of your bench boost? I mean, it's ages away, mate. But I'd be trying to work out how I move that personally. William Alemby says, start Dyer or Barnes. Barnes, I think, plays. Dixie says, hi, James, play Cody or Maddison. I've got Cody above Maddison because I don't think Maddison plays. Shu says, Sterling to KDB a good move. Nah, you've gone Sterling. Why did you go Sterling in the first place? Mick says, I'm sure you've answered this already, but thoughts on Havertz starting. Deadline's passed. And I think he does. And that's the general opinion on Chelsea assets. Unless you're in a position where you want to sell, if you've got them this week, I think the best players to start them. I don't pick the team. He didn't even have a press conference, Tuchel. So it's guess away. But I think the team might be stronger tomorrow than what people think. That said, I think Everton could get something. For those whose questions I didn't get to, apologies. Thanks for submitting the questions. If you came just for the FPL, enjoy your weekend. Smash a like, hit the subscribe button on your way out. Deadline stream will be same time next week for game week 36. If anybody's got non-FPL questions, smash them in the chat now. Happy to get them covered for 15 minutes or so. Content a little bit different this coming week. The main podcast with myself and Suj will be on Tuesday, because we want to take Bank Holiday Monday off here in the UK and spend it with our families. But I'm not really taking it off because I'm pre-recording Clash of Correspondence Monday night. And I have a recording tomorrow morning. We're doing a special one Monday, welcoming back our Fulham correspondent, Dara Curran at the Tinkermen. We're going to be discussing Fulham, what we can expect. Is it going to be any different for them next year? So welcome back Fulham again. Will be the podcast on Monday with at the Tinkerman and myself. Tuesday will be main pod. Wednesday will be Sky Fantasy. Thursday's Clash of the Correspondents ahead of Game Week 36 will be with Aaron Lager and Sean Norton previewing Leicester and Everton's Game Week 36. I will likely be doing my Ask James stream on Friday. Probably 3 o'clock UK time again. Deadline stream 10 o'clock. And obviously May starts on Sunday. It's a brand new month. If you'd like to support our content on Patreon because you want to support our content, we'd love to have you join our Planet FPL community. www.patreon.com/Planet FPL. There will be... trying to do my maths here. 22 additional podcasts from intermediate tier in May. I think I've got that right. It'll be over 20 anyway. You can join the community from £3 a month if you want to join obviously our Slack channel and the community. Access to my spreadsheet, which admittedly there's not long to go. You probably don't need that for the rest of the season now. Podcasts available from intermediate tier, and there are advanced tier videos every weekday, Monday to Friday as well, which includes the popular Talking Tactics, which I normally do on a Thursday, which last week took a focus at if Spurs had been sussed out. The answer is yes, they have, but it's not easy to do. So it doesn't mean that Spurs can't still do well. Right, let's have some non-FPL questions. Thanks to all those who contributed in the chat. Stian says, worst hangover you've ever had, having mine now. God, worst hangover ever. Worst hangover ever. I remember going to a stag do in Newcastle 2011, and what was coming out my body wasn't right for 2 weeks. But I think I was just drunk for a long time. Worst hangover ever. To be honest, I went out. It was the first time I went out for ages. Was before the last day of last season. Went out with a couple of lads in London. And I hadn't drunk for like 9 months. Brutal. I watched the Tottenham at Leicester game with 38, like on the telly, like buzzing, but not really there. Absolutely brutalised. That's probably the worst because my body had become accustomed to no alcohol anymore. So honestly, that's arguably probably the worst. I was dead. They affect me much worse now than they used to. Used to just power through them back in the day. Danelius has enjoyed it. Thank you. Very welcome. Andrew Gronin says salt and vinegar chips or salt and vinegar crisps. Chips. But I have to be careful here because isn't that crisps in America? That will confuse some, I imagine. Salt and vinegar chips, yes. Rob Picks says, hi mate, Sky question. 280th roughly. I ain't giving you any advice, trying to catch you, mate. 3 moves left, considering Cash or Zaha are differential captains. I own both. Either worth it. Opinion, no. I'm still captain mode today in Sky. There's other opportunities. Dylan Ferner Rose says, what Prem manager would you pick to look after your kid for the day, and what manager would you let nowhere near him? Wow, what a good question. What a good question. I would not let my child anywhere near Arteta. Sorry. I really wouldn't. Who'd be good at looking after the kid from the managers? Oh, I wouldn't let him anywhere near Brendan Rodgers either. I am going to say... no, I'm not. Klopp. Actually, I think my child would probably be laughing at the end of the day. I thought his interviews in the week for Liverpool having signed a new contract were great, actually. I'd say Klopp, actually. James Brennan says, hi James, do you think Liverpool United get to 21 titles first? Cheers, mate. Great stream as always. Liverpool, mate. Razik says, non-FPL question. If a well-drilled mid-season Spurs or Arsenal went to the World Cup, would they be favourites? No. Nowhere near a Spurs or Arsenal better than France, for example. Nowhere near. So, no. Dom Dixie Doo says, if Conte... Chelsea would be borderline. Liverpool and City would be favourites. Dom Dixie Doo says, if Conte does leave, who would you like to see as his replacement? Potter seems a non-brainer. It's not going to be Potter because they'd have gone for him last summer, mate. So, no, I think Tottenham are probably now in some form of big name manager territory. Look, if Conte does go, it'll be Pochettino. It's fairly certain. The name I'd like, who might be available suddenly, is Roberto Mancini. Obviously, Italy ain't going to the World Cup now, are they? So, could you get him away? Possibly. DMT said spuds or rice. If it's roasted potatoes, yeah. Otherwise, I'm not massive. So, yeah, don't mind a bit of rice. Stephen McCann says, hey, James, missed the stream. What move did you go for? All the ones on the screen, mate. All 10 moves. It's wildcard, mate. It's on the screen. Florentine P says, hi, James. What would you choose Spurs to win CL and PL, or you to win FPL? Listen, I've done this 100 times over. I'd rather Tottenham won the League Cup than I won FPL. To be honest, I'd rather Tottenham won tomorrow. Honestly. I don't think... If people ask that question, don't think you realise how much Tottenham influenced my life. It's not even a question, honestly, mate. But thank you for it. I've done it 100 times over. Patrick Lawson says, which players do you expect will leave Spurs this summer? The thing is, it's more what can they get rid of? Can they get the money for Ndombele? Get the money for Lo Celso? I think from the current starting team, I'm not sure I'd expect anyone to leave. I think Kane will stay at the moment. City are obviously going for Haaland. United shouldn't be spunking their money on one player. Could Chelsea be interested if they moved on Lukaku? Maybe. But I don't really see that, to be honest. Liverpool are not going to spend the sort of money Tottenham would want. So I think he stays, to be honest. Madrid and Barca can't afford to pay big money for a player. Madrid have got other targets. I think he stays. I couldn't see him being interested in going to PSG. I think he stays. Not many of the rest of our assets are actually sellable assets. I actually think the majority of the team that's starting at the moment will stay. I think Tottenham will probably try and move Emerson Royal on, and they're obviously looking to move on a lot of fringe players. Rose Mendes says, Mark Southern supports Nottingham Forest. How happy will he be if they are automatically promoted? More the question is, would Mark Southerns be happy to be the Nottingham Forest correspondent? I don't know. Would he be worthy of it? Would he be worthy of it? Yeah, Mark would be delighted if obviously Forest. I'd like Forest to come up. Nothing to do with Mark. I'd like Forest to come up anyway. It's been 20 years or so. When did they go down? I want to say 99 actually, I think, wasn't it? So they've not been in the Premier League this century. It'd be good to have them back. They're a decent club. Fresh face as well. It's nonsense of same teams coming up and going down all the time. Forest has been away for a long time. It'd be good to have them back. And to be honest, they're in such good form over Cooper, they might start like a train even. Ray Qureshi says, hi James, start, sub, sell game. Iniesta, Zidane, Xavi. Start, sub, sell game. God. That's brutal. I would sell Prime Iniesta because I'd have got a fortune for him. Start Zidane and sub Xavi. That's fucking awful. You're literally naming. If you was to ask me to name a best ever World 11, that would be my midfield. That's absolutely brutal. James Brennan says also, what was the chicken shop you went to in Manchester Dixie Chicken? Oh, I can't remember. But I walked back past it when we went to Burnley actually. No, it was terrible. Like, I'm not recommending it. Mark Lynch, did Han Solo shoot first? Don't know, mate. Don't watch that sci-fi nonsense. Stian says, how's Harry? Has he figured out what happened? What happened? Is one of his favourite sentences at the moment. What happened? Danny says, favourite shape of pasta? Not fussy. I mean, the long streaky shit if it's in a bolognese. Nils Appel says, joined for the after party. Good luck, or what do you want your next car to be, James? Never had one, mate. It doesn't particularly matter. Bus. I just want the Uber to turn up on time, mate. FPL telling Josh, gotta be Papa Klopp to look after little man. There you go. Zuggy Lester says Roy Hodgson. Flux says lower, burst out laughing. We did the Michael Jackson hee for the kid question. KP338 Salah bench spy on cop. Tim Salter says, do you get around the Super League at all? If so, who? Get around the Super League at all? I mean, Super League is a bunch of nonsense. Are you asking me about the real Super League? I mean, no interest in that. I mean, look. Let's see if Spy on Cop did say anything about Salah. Spy on Cop. Nope. As you could probably see from the comment, I was shitting myself. NS Garney25 says, hey mate, best of luck this week. Apparently Salah on the bench via Spy on Cop. Or maybe they are saying it. That's a couple of people saying it. Spy on Cop. Spy on Cop. I can't even find their fucking Twitter handle. Spy on Cop. Spy on Cop. Spy on Cop. I mean, if it's benched, it's benched. There's a lot of people... oh yeah, look. Doesn't start. Looks like Rob Pitt. Looks like I'm not captain Salah in Sky. So, there we go. I mean, it'd be everyone's captain 36 now. I'm not overly surprised about that. Who did I advise? Coutinho. I mean, Salah will get on anyway, won't he? Tom S says, I'm going to White Lane for the first time tomorrow. Can I? No, you can't, Tom. Fuck off. Joe Pickerill says, in your opinion, who fits City better, Haaland or Kane? Haaland, in all honesty. Ali Fuck said Salah bench. Stephen Moore Salah's benched. Apparently I want to cry. Damon Rozowski, who is your Huddersfield Town correspondent when they get promoted? It's FPL Terrier if he still wants to gig. Glenn Murray says, what's Suj's odds for manager of the month in Sky? I know quite a few are going for it. 100 to 1. Ray Qureshi says, you're welcome. For me it starts Zidane, sub Iniesta and sells Zari, brutal. Hadi Diallo gone. Tony mate at Old Trafford, Monday Night Lights. Tim Salter says, yeah, the Rugby League Super League. Oh, nah. I used to watch a little bit of it back in the 90s. I used to follow the Great Wigan team with Jason Robinson, Martin of Fire, Sean Edwards, great team. But nah, I wouldn't have a clue. I wouldn't even have the new season started or not. Wouldn't have a clue. I think that's it, guys. So, James Brennan says apparently Trent benched too. Joe Pickrell says, would have you took 120 million plus Sterling or Laporte for Kane in the summer? Would you took Sterling or Laporte for Kane? I mean, hindsight, yeah. Hindsight's a bitch, isn't it? So I don't think that's gone now. He's like 25 goals off of Jimmy Grew's goal scoring record at Tottenham. So look, we want him to break that. And it's Garni saying, "Oh snap, Trent bench too apparently." Well. Just need Richarlison to do the business at Chelsea tomorrow. I mean, look, I got a good first sub there in Nketiah, haven't I? So if they get 1 point each, they get 1 point each. And obviously at this stage, Mohamed Salah don't get in on at all, and Coutinho's captain. Always a risk. It's the business end of the season, right? Liverpool played Wednesday night, Saturday lunchtime. Klopp spoke about it. He works on a traffic light system in terms of the coaches will say to him, he's potentially a risk if you play him today, and that's how he makes his decision when you've got games close together. So, well, I guess the early winners are those who've gone without Salah. Obviously, in hindsight, had I got that news earlier, I would have changed it about. I would have honestly, to be honest, Trent would have gone for me then. So I would have literally gone Son, KDB, and VVD. That was the debate, wasn't it? Salah, Foden and Trent, or KDB, Son and VVD. So, bad choice, arguably. But it's over 3 game weeks, not 1. All right, guys, we'll leave it there. I'll be back with Dara for that Fulham podcast on Monday. Me and Suj will be back on Tuesday. Enjoy the bank holiday weekend. Weather looks nice for most of us. Be nice to each other. Chill. The game week doesn't end until Monday, except for all of us who don't have United or Brentford assets. Have a great weekend, everyone. Ciao for now.